His commentary and analysis is among the best, bar none. His words serve as a masterclass. He deconstructs the deceptions of the PSYOP war. He is the author of The Greatness Awaits You, the national leader of Australia One Party Incorporated, a monthly panel participant in JMC's Global Defense War, in a league of his own, an international treasure, a follower of Jesus Christ. He is Ricardo Bosi. Ricardo Bosi is a published author and speaker, international business consultant, former Australian Army Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel, having served 24 years in the Australian Army, including postings to the Special Air Service Regiment, the 1st Commando Regiment, Headquarters Special Operations, and the U.S. Combined Joint Task Force Headquarters in Kuwait. Don't miss JMC Broadcasting's Bosi Briefs, where John sits down with Ricardo, helping to connect the dots, making sense of the madness, keeping us all grounded and united as the battle between good and evil play out before our very eyes. Join John and Ricardo every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here at jmcbroadcasting.com.
April 11th, Saturday, 2026. Hello, I am John Michael Chambers, and welcome back to Bosi Briefs. Thank you for joining us once again. This program publishes every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, where retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi of Australia weighs in on current events. Please share these episodes far and wide and subscribe for free at jmcbroadcasting.com. Image number 2, please. There we go. Quick announcement before we get into the heart of the matter with Ricardo, who's standing by in the digital green room. Join us Thursday, April 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Patriot Q&A, 1 solid hour simply to answer your questions with Captain Rob Cunningham. I'll be on screen as a host. Rob Cunningham to answer your questions, 1 solid hour, Thursday, April 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Go to jmcbroadcasting.com, click on Premium Portal, learn all about this opportunity to join us. We look forward to seeing you there. All right, what is unfolding now is not random enforcement. It is a coordinated multi-year military operation executed under sealed indictments and international wartime jurisdiction. These arrests are not political theater. They are precision strikes against an integrated global criminal network that operated above national law for decades. The targets are not low-level operatives. They are financial controllers, NGO intermediaries, media gatekeepers, pharmaceutical executives, intelligence cutouts, and religious laundering channels used to move money, traffic influence, and shield crimes. The same structure repeats across continents because it was centralized by design. This is why multiple countries are involved simultaneously. Jurisdiction hopping no longer works. Diplomatic immunity no longer protects. And offshore accounts no longer hide assets. Military tribunals bypass corrupted civil courts that were compromised long, long ago. Financial freezes are already active. Shell foundations are being dismantled. Data servers are being seized. Evidence chains are locked and mirrored across multiple allied commands. This phase is about containment, isolation, and extraction. Public exposure always comes last, and I will repeat that. Public exposure always comes last. The delay people sense is not hesitation. It is sequencing. You do not announce a takedown while the network is still being rounded up. You cut the exits first. This operation is synchronized with global financial restructuring, asset recovery, and institutional collapse prevention. Removing the criminals without stabilizing the system would trigger chaos. I hope you understand this. That is why the process is controlled, quiet, and methodical. Military precision, folks. History will record this period as the moment the shadow governance ended. Having said that, nothing can stop what's coming. This is God ordained. All the people are in place. Everything's in motion. This is dark to light. And for sure, where we go one, we go all. Ricardo Bosi, for those just joining, those just coming aboard in this movement, who's Ricardo Bosi? Ricardo Bosi is an international treasure, former Australian Army Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel who served 24 years in the Australian Army. He's a national leader of Australia One Party. Please welcome back retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi.
John, good evening. How are you? Lovely to see you. Good to be here. And thanks for that very kind and warm introduction. But I'm just a simple soldier doing my best, mate.
Well, you're a humble man, and thank you for being here. The world is waiting to make sense of the madness and cut through the issues of the day, because they're mounting and causing all kinds of confusion. And this broadcast, folks, is going to clear a lot of that up with and for you from the experience Ricardo's had in military, in intelligence, and in civilian activity as well. So thank you again for being here. What's image 4? To my producer, let's put up image 4. All right, so there we go. There we go. Perfect. So let me ask you, Ricardo. Here we go again, sending astronauts to the sending astronauts to the moon. And to our audience, this may be an extended broadcast. We've got a lot to cover, and this show is going to build momentum and will be mind-blowing for some and will be affirmative for others. But for starters, sir, did the moon landing event where Richard Nixon called the astronauts, I remember watching it as a child on television, from the landline, let me begin there before we go to the modern day. Straight up question. And as always, we will get a detailed and straight up answer from Ricardo Bosi. Did that ever take place? Did we land on the moon in Richard Nixon's time?
As advertised, no. But
good answer.
And we won't go into it now.
Care to elaborate?
Does it necessarily mean that other events have occurred? But what was sold as advertised didn't happen. And I remember I was at school that day. I was 9 years of age, 4th grade at Macaulay Preparatory School in Rose Bay, Sydney. We got to school on the buses as we normally did, and the teacher said, go home, quick, watch what's happening on television. So all confused and excited, we raced home. We found buses home, sat in front of the black and white Valve television set, and we watched, Neil Armstrong blow his lines. But no, as advertised, it never happened.
Yes, well, thank you for weighing in on that. And I would agree and concur, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers do. And for those that don't, do your own homework. We don't have the time to get into that right now. Do go down the rabbit holes to our audience and take a look at the beyond anomalies, the clear discrepancies. And I would encourage you to Google Stanley Krubeck and see what he had to say about things before he left this planet. All right, so thank you for putting that on the record, sir. And that brings me to the present. What do you make of this recent launch? And that they just landed as we speak here, I think. What do you make of this recent launch and trek back to circling the moon? What do you speculate is going on here now today? Is there any messaging taking place that all of a sudden we're circling the moon successfully? Anywhere you want to go with that, sir, I'd be.
Yeah, well, that picture says it all. Now imagine, why was that picture even leaked? Because what they're trying to do, they're trying to persuade people they're being lied to. There's an old, I think it was Mark Twain. It's easier to fool people than to convince them they have been fooled. So what they've done is they've even had DJT weigh in and speak to the astronauts and say what a wonderful accomplishment it was. And then you see this inflatable rocket photograph appear. And that's so the target audience, and that's a technical term, just so you're aware, folks, in psychological operations, or what for a time was called military information support operations, MISO, but they went back to psychological ops. the target audience, that's a group that you're trying to persuade, even the target audience will look at that and say, oh, yes, it's wonderful. We went around the moon. What's that picture of an inflatable rocket doing there? And this is a gentle way of saying you've been fooled. Because as I said, it's easier to fool them than to persuade them they have been fooled. And that's what this is, very short and sharp. That's why it occurred. That is the only reason it occurred.
Thank you. So you've often referred to in this broadcast and certainly other broadcasts, and look, central casting. How many times has the president said that? 17. How many times has the president said that? These anomalies are beyond anomalies at this stage. So you've often referred to people coming in and out of the script and things being placed. So
Yep.
this is part of the script in the movie. For additional clarification, would that be accurate? This type of messaging on this trip to the moon again?
Yeah, it's part of the PSYOP because in planning for a PSYOP, there are 7 steps, and you can look them up. There's not much. It's not all that difficult to understand. You can go to the Department of Defense, US DoD Department of Defense PSYOP manual or military information support operations manual, and you can read about it. In fact, I was going to prepare a brief, but it's not that difficult. But the job to do is, and this is if you're into marketing or you're in business and you're selling something, you'll understand this. You've got a target audience. Now you've got this whole population. Now who are you selling to? Are you selling to the 18 to 35-year-olds? Are you selling to retirees? Who are you selling to? To whom? And then you shape the message in a way that is acceptable and palatable to that segment of the target audience. So you got to identify the groups that can influence plans, for example. Who are the groups? Which demographic, which psychographic group of the population do you need to target? And then you identify their susceptibility to certain messaging. And then you shape your message to that group. And so if people are getting confused with the volume of information, sometimes contradictory, sometimes supportive, if people are confused by that, it's because you are seeing several messages for different demographic and psychographic groups that don't necessarily agree with each other. But the white hats have to speak to the entire population as much as possible simultaneously. And so they use different methods. And this one method is for one particular group that would have difficulty believing that they've been lied to. And that's it. It's just part of the operation.
Thank you for that clarification. I'm going to change subjects on us. This is going to be about a 5-minute clip from our First Lady. I hadn't watched the entire clip yet. This will be my first time. I caught pieces of it and found it important for you to weigh in on, sir. So to Ricardo and to our audience, let's watch our First Lady, Melania Trump.
Good afternoon. The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence. My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998. This initial encounter with my husband is documented in detail in my book, Melania. The first time I crossed paths with Epstein was in the year 2000 at an event Donald and I attended together. At the time, I had never met Epstein and had no knowledge of his criminal undertakings. Numerous fake images and statements about Epstein and me have been circulating on social media for years. Be cautious about what you believe. These images and stories are completely false. I am not a witness or a named witness in connection with any of Epstein's crimes. My name has never appeared in court documents, depositions, victim statements, or FBI interviews surrounding the Epstein matter. I have never had any knowledge of Epstein abuse of his victims. I was never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant, was never on Epstein's plane, and never visited his private island. I have never been legally accused or convinced of a crime in connection with Epstein's sex trafficking, abuse of minors, and other repulsive behavior. The false smears about me from mean-spirited and politically motivated individuals and entities looking to cause damage to my good name, to gain financially and climb politically, must stop. My attorneys and I have fought these unfounded and baseless lies with success and will continue to maintain my sound reputation without hesitation. To date, several individuals and companies have been legally obligated to publicly apologize and retract their lies about me, such as Daily Beast, James Carville, and HarperCollins, UK. Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone. Several prominent male executives resigned from their powerful positions after this matter became widely politicized. Of course, this doesn't amount to guilt, but we still must work openly and transparently to uncover the truth. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony. Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes, and then her testimony should be permanently entered into the congressional record. Then, and only then, we will have the truth. Thank you.
All right, we see on the screen from MJ Truth Ultra, published on socials. Do you understand what Melania Trump just did? She just called for the Epstein survivors to be put in front of. Why, when they've been so damn nasty? When the Epstein survivors first came about, I was very sympathetic because I have a sympathetic heart for victims. But then I understood who funded them. Then I understood they were dead silent when Joe Biden was president, but wanted to get loud when Trump became president. Melania Trump just said to them all, testify under oath or shut the F up. Ricardo, Bosi, weigh in. We get a two-panel with me and Ricardo, please. What do you make of this clip? Go ahead, Ricardo. What do you make of this? She says it's time for Congress to act. There were a lot of key things here. And why now? What say you? What do you make of this?
Now, there's a couple of levels to look at it. First of all, I believe there's an allegation that DJT was in a meeting, was unaware that this was about to take place. I find that hard to believe. Nothing happens by accident. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen unexpectedly for Melania, because she misread from a well-prepared script. So the script looks like it was well prepared, but she misread two words. One was trivial, she said trivial, and secondly, she said convinced
Correct.
rather than convicted. And so those two misspeaks, to my mind, said it was well prepared. It was intended to be used at some point. There might be truth in that. She just got the script and did what she did. So that's just the background play for the people interested in how these things are rolled out. But nothing happens by accident. The First Lady just doesn't decide to do something off her own bat without any conversation. But that's behind the scenes. People don't want to see the man behind the curtain. They just like to watch the show. But that's what's going on behind it, right? So now we've got the actual show proper.
Mhm.
Now, why? What did she say, and why now? And why did they use Melania? Melania's been held back. She's like a very powerful weapon system that everyone knows you've got, but she hasn't been used yet. She's communicated using her various outfits, so people know she's part of the show. They've got the book out. They've made the movie. But they actually haven't launched this weapon system into the debate yet, and they've been waiting for the right time and the right place. And that apparently is now, simply because people are screaming about Epstein files, the Epstein files, the Epstein files, the Epstein files. Those of us who are watching, we understand that this is an excellent misdirection tool. It's generating a lot of energy, so people are looking at the Epstein files and not looking at other things because that's what is required. It's misdirection. Look at my right hand because my left hand's doing something else. So that's the e-files have been manipulated beautifully by the white hats to generate antipathy, to flush out the pipes, to find out the anti-Trump world, and they've been doing that progressively. So there are a lot of podcasters that have been flushed out, and that's a long, slow process. So the fact that they've been dangling the e-files out for so long and apparently doing nothing when that's not true. We know that Donald Trump has directed what's got to be done. The Congress has passed laws, but things aren't happening, but they keep beating up on DJT. This is now part of a second play simultaneous. Let's make Donald Trump the tethered goat. Let's get him to shut down the discussion on the e-files and look like he's misdirecting and forcing everybody away from the e-files, so people are now looking at it. And so there are a number of parallel operations synchronized together, and now this has brought a few of them to a head. Now we've got Melania, an extraordinarily powerful symbol, as well as a devastating weapon system against the adversary, and that's why they've only used her
Mhm.
obliquely to this point. And now this is a big moment because she's come out, she's said a piece, and she finished with what was most important. It's time for Congress to act. Do what you got to do. It hasn't been done. Do what you got to do. Make sure it's done. DJT's done and said and done what he needs to say and do. The Congress needs to get off its backsides and get active. Law enforcement has to get active. That frustration. So she's definitely directed people's energy, which has been allowed and encouraged to get to a fever pitch. And now that it's at maximum pressure, it can be fired off in the direction it needs to be fired. But this flushing out the anti-DJT, anti-American forces within the system has been rolling all along. And this ties in, and I'm sure John will want to talk about this in more detail later. But I said some time ago, the whole system has got to come down. And when I say the whole system, nobody gets to survive this. There will be no Democrat Party. Hooray, says everybody. Guess what? There'll be no RNC either. They'll be gone. It's all gone. They're all gone. They all have to collapse. The entire edifice will come down. And when it comes down, because the replacement edifice has been built simultaneously, people will watch the old world collapse, but the new world will already be there ready to go. So there is no gap in terms of what's going on. So the timing is critical. It's a great sign for everybody. The fact that this has happened now means we are now moving into the next phase. We are getting critically close to the big reveal. So people have been, where's the reveal? Where's the reveal? Well, the reveal started a long time ago, but it's been drip fed. and those of us who are watching and paying attention saw it. It's still frustrating. I mean, like everybody else, we want this done now, but you can't. As you said, John, it's accurate, it's precision, it's surgical synchronization of multiple lines of effort, multiple lines of operation at a level of complexity that nobody, if we try to explain it to people, they'd get bored after 5 minutes and go watch Mickey Mouse cartoons. And so this is a critical time now. They've launched the Melania cruise missile. It is elegant, it is powerful, it is devastating in its effect, both physically, emotionally, psychologically. It's hit all the right buttons for different demographic groups. People will be persuaded by this for different reasons, and that's why she's such an extraordinary weapon in the arsenal, let's say, because she can cover multiple demographic and psychographic groups, unlike others. DJT appeals to some, not to others. The various members of the cabinet appeal to some, not to others. And yet Melania stands alone, and she's a very special capability. They've now fired that great signal that things are about to get. We are so close to things happening now, and this is it. And when the e-files eventually do get fully released, Donald Trump will be coming up smelling like roses, and all the anti-Trump voices, and we can go through them later because I've been guffawing with laughter at who's come out against DJT and what they have said. And again, it's attracted all the anti-Trump forces. And by Trump, I don't mean the man. I mean the movement that Trump leads. Okay, not even the Republican Party. I'm not talking about that. I'm not even talking about MAGA, because MAGA has to grow up as well. That has to collapse. MAGA is being attacked mercilessly by, say, the America First group. All these little internecine battles are part of the game. Now, some of these voices that have been flushed out against Trump, particularly with the Epstein files, are quite sincere. They actually see this as a great opportunity to bring down the great man himself. Others, I'm sure, are being directed by white hats, are saying, okay, go out there and lead the charge against Trump. We want you to say the most egregious, insulting things about him and see who's going to follow you, and then stick their head above the parapet. And when they do, the white hats take them out. They track everything. And so it's not just simply a matter of the First Lady got on her hind legs and made a statement. It's bigger, it's more critical, and far more important than that. And so when it happened, I was very pleased for the reasons I just stated. It's a great signal. It's a great comm. And it put everyone back in their place. So what it means to me is that the white hats have got just about all they need out of the Epstein files now in terms of revealing not just the top names, because the names have been known for some time, but you imagine the pipes all the way down to the sewerage farm, let's say, that need to be flushed out. And that's just about done. That's how I read that. This is a critical moment. It doesn't look like it's critical. It's just like, I wasn't there. I didn't do anything. No, it's the implications of this statement by the First Lady are much greater and very exciting for all of us.
What a great analysis. And I'm glad I ran that 5-minute clip because I knew you would unpack quite a bit. And a big takeaway for me, go back to what you earlier stated, Ricardo, is I put it in these words, the trajectory of we're witnessing the trajectory of the deployment of Melania Trump's power, as you laid out a bit ago. And that dovetails perfectly what you've been talking about here as a result of Melania, some other window dressing around it. Let's jump into that. There seems to be a coordinated purge of sorts taking place, such as the termination of Pam Bondi. We'll begin there. I'm going to build this narrative up. Pam Bondi, termination of Pam Bondi as Attorney General. Then we have Pete Hegseth. Let's not put that image up yet. Pete Hegseth has asked the Army Chief of Staff, General Randy George, to step down and take immediate retirement. A senior U.S. Army official and senior Department of War official. Hegseth additionally fired more than 12 generals last week, including the commander of the U.S. Army. So let me see where I'd like to go with this. Yeah, let's comment on that before we get into the attacks against Trump from within the movement and all that stuff, because that's a big subject. I'm going to get there in a minute. If you would comment on the Pam Bondi firing and the 12 generals plus that Hegseth has moved off the chessboard. What's happening?
Okay, let's let's go back in time when Pam Bondi was first nominated. Let's go back in time when a number of people got jobs. Marco Rubio, you name them. Have a look at Trump's cabinet, and you remember many of us, JD Vance, all of them. All you have to do is look at their background, ask yourself, as we did, what the hell is Trump thinking? Why is he putting these obvious bad actors into those jobs? There was, because those bad actors, then they were, just look at their background, they were given an opportunity to perform a unifying and destructive process. Because the fact that they put in these bad actors gave pause to a lot of the cabal, thinking, well, we've got our people in, this is great. And then they were used to bring down their own side, so to speak. So it wasn't simply that Pam Bondi, doesn't have, she's got, scrambled eggs for brains, which I believe is probably true. That's not the point. The point is that she was a bad actor as a junior woodchuck, as a state attorney general, as were all of these other players. They're all crooked, but this wrong-footed the enemy. They thought they had their people inside the tent, so to speak, Trump's tent. Never, not true at all. But that's there's this wonderful unifying and forcing the cabal to misstep, to trip up and think that they were okay. A bit like having Pence identified as the vice president. This grub, and that gave them pause and calmed them down. So that's point number one. So that all of them had that point. Point number two, why are they gone now? Because it suits the strategy. This is the dismantling of everything. So you use these players. If you can turn an adversary without the other side knowing about it, as I've said once before, you're now up one, and the other side's down one. So you've got a delta of two. So every enemy you turn, it's a delta of two. Every enemy you kill, it's only a delta of one. And so by turning it, secondly, the psychological impact on an organization when one of their own turns is devastating. It's worse than a soldier being shot and killed. Okay, the next step up is a soldier just disappearing from the front line and they can't find him. And that starts sending psychological concern through the troops. How do I know that? My grandfather used to do that with the Nazis on the Dalmatian coast in World War II. His job was to wander around at nighttime alone in black woolen outfit, just like you see in the films, and he'd just sneak up, grab a soldier on guard somewhere, cut his throat, drag his body off, bury it somewhere where they couldn't find it, and the next morning they'd be saying, "Where's Hans?" And Hans couldn't be found, and my God, all of a sudden it starts to upset people. And so you got to understand that when you're taking out people, literally and metaphorically, there are ways to do it. So this is devastating to the cabal, initially because it gave them false hope. Secondly, they were bringing down the cabal with all their information, gun to their head. You'll do what we say when we say how you do it, and you're going to give us information as we go. Because as they capture all of these grubs, they are squeezed dry for all their information and then used. And then when it's finished, you just get rid of them. Now, not everyone that's been removed is a grub. You got to understand that as well. People come in for particular reasons. What reasons? You'd have to go through the plan in detail, because every individual is picked for various skill sets, abilities, and they all have a life expectancy in the sense of utility to the plan. Somebody comes up, they have a useful contribution, and then that contribution is no longer required and they disappeared. These aren't bad people. So please understand, I'm not saying that everyone that disappears from the screen is bad. No, they are just no longer useful, because that part of the operation, that phase to which they could meaningfully contribute, has ended. If you want a very simple analogy, Normandy, the Allied landing on the beaches of Normandy, 6 June 1944, there were tons of landing craft. We need landing craft. They're critical. We need more landing craft. Well, after they landed the troops, those landing craft are no good, so you just put them somewhere else. Maybe you'll do a landing somewhere else and you'll need landing craft. People are the same. So they all have a specific role in a specific environment to deliver a specific effect in a specific way for a specific period of time. And after that, you find another job for them, or you give them change their name and send them to Valhalla. So that's the first part with this whole thing, with the people in the cabinet and the people that are coming and going. It is not a failure. It's presented as, oh my God, Trump picked bad people. woe betide Trump. Trump's got bad judgment. Nothing could be further from the truth. Exquisitely fine judgment, because that's the granularity at which they look at the employment of these individuals. Does that help at all there, John?
It sure does. Thank you. And I was contemplating discussing Vance when I sort of prepared for the show, and I decided not to, but now I've decided to. You mentioned his name casually in the beginning of your analysis, so I'm going to go there, sir, and completely unaware of what your response will be. But it seems to me individuals are being used, being plucked out of the crop of humans. And it looks to me like they plucked out of the crop of humans a guy named JD Vance to become vice president. I go back to when Trump was running for office, and I said to myself, everyone, of course, was thinking JFK Jr. or, somebody else, or, General Flynn as the VP nominee. And this name JD Vance shows up, and everyone's like, who the heck is that? And then they did the homework. Ambrosia, adrenochrome business, all kinds of interesting things came out immediately thanks to our digital warriors and digital soldiers. Now, I, for one, have not researched it any further beyond what I've just stated. But as I watched the show unfold over these years, and because I listened very closely to my commander-in-chief and President Donald J. Trump, who says central casting every 5 minutes, is it a stretch to say, sir, that JD Vance was used, the individual, probably dealt with, recreated in some fashion or another, and is the sitting vice president today? I know it sounds conspiratorial, but hey, we didn't have Joe Biden for 4 years, so it's not a big stretch. What's your take, sir?
What makes a great film, John? Great actors. Now, here's the interesting part. I agree with you entirely. Who says that JD Vance is actually JD Vance? Who says any of these people are who they are? And people will be offended by that and say, well, how can on one? Let's go to the two extremes. That's just conspiratorial nonsense. That could never happen. Why not? It's been happening forever. Monarchs, rulers, tyrants have had doubles forever. They had food tasters. Why? Because people were going to kill them. They couldn't track Saddam Hussein for the longest time because he had 5 or 6 doubles, and they were pretty convincing. I'm sure the cabal knew exactly where he was, but that's not the point. The idea was to give the people the impression they couldn't find him. Not true. Cabal knows where these people are all the time. So no, the fact that there's doubles or fakes is quite normal. It's de rigueur. It's the way it works. So that's point one. On the other side, you got, how dare you? You can't lie to us. How dare you? We are the people. We are the source of sovereignty. You can't do this to us. You're just our political representatives. Blah, blah. No, well, yes and no, up to a point. Let's look at it this way. First of all, the legality of it, and everything that DJT and the White Hats do has a firm basis in legal philosophy. Now, what is that? Well, let's talk law. The Smith-Mundt Act. Now, what's that? The short version is the US cannot propagandize the people, meaning they can't propagandize, they can't lie to their own population for the purpose of advancing anything, even a legitimate objective. They can withhold information and say you can't know that because of security concerns, but they can't actively lie. Then the Smith-Mundt Act, said, no, you can't do it. Now, what's DJT doing? He's doing nothing more than employing the tools that were left to him by his predecessor. And who was the predecessor? Obama. So in 2012, and then finally came into force in 2013, the Smith-Mundt Act was modernized. The net result of that was, yes, you could propagandize the American people now. You could lie to them. Now, is that moral or sound? Well, I don't think so. But guess what? It's lawful. Why? Because Obama made sure it happened. So how about that? So you don't like being lied to by a president? Well, point the finger at the individual that made it possible. So all DJT is doing on one level, and this is just on a presidential level, forget the commander-in-chief, and his laws are very different, extremely different. So even at that presidential level, he's only implying the laws that you were under Obama. So if you're cranky about it, go talk to the Democrats, go talk to Obama, go talk to Biden. Well, you can't because they're all being tried, found guilty, and executed. But you get my drift here. So once again, there is a lawful underpinning to what DJT is doing. Is it unpalatable? Yes. Should the Smith-Monk Act adjustments that were made to make it lawful to propagandize the US be reversed? Absolutely. Should the US people or any national people who are the source of law, should they be able to be propagandized by the government? Absolutely not. It's abhorrent to anybody with a sense of by, for, and of the people. You can't do it. So, and there's a million positions in between those two positions. What people are being subjected to is a series of tactics and strategies employed, established by the bad guys, being utilized by the good guys to then reverse everything the bad guys have done. And you can bet your bottom dollar that when this is done, all these nonsense laws that were created by the cabal under the cover of the Democrat Party, for example, they'll be removed. And yes, goodwill and peace to all men will descend upon the earth, and people will be the source of all law. All that's a long way down the track, but that's what's been going on here. And so, Vance, have a look at any of the names that were associated with DJT over the longest time. There's a reason why they were selected. There are a reason why some really good people didn't get the job publicly. There's some really good reasons why bad people got the job. I mean, you listen to Vance speak, eloquent, intelligent, across the issues, persuasive, but that's not him. Great acting, central casting.
Yes, thank you very much. And for additional point of clarification about propagandizing in the Smith-Monk Act and so forth, which you laid out very clearly, also to bring to our viewers' attention, we're, as you well know, sir, we're in a military operation, continuity of government, and so certain things can take place there under those laws and rules of the commander in chief, as you alluded to. There's so much more I want to cover with you, but this has been excellent analysis. Let's talk briefly about this, and then we're going to get into the attacks of President Trump, the narratives that are going on out there from without and from within, which I think is very, very important. But before we get there, there's been so many twists and turns and doomsday warnings from the commander in chief concerning Iran. In other words, President Trump has been putting out all kinds of interesting narratives and language on the social platforms concerning Iran, and things seem to change every other day in terms of who's breaking what agreement and what new agreements have been formed and so forth and so on. To me, I have to be honest with you, and I'm going to say this right here and now before I complete my question to you, and that is, it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer, and to me every day when I watch this stuff, I hate to say this because I understand the stakes at hand and I understand the severity of the war and the game that we're in, but man, this is a show. This is a movie. This is crazy stuff. The stuff the president's been putting out is entertaining to me. But now we have this ceasefire, supposedly for 2 weeks, which may have been violated already. What's your analysis and update as to the events concerning Iran and the Straits of Hormuz? I saw a post the other day where the president said, we'll be moving on. We're wrapping up Iran soon, and we'll be moving on to our next conquest. Now, I threw a lot of stuff at the marker board there. If I presented any clarity in that, please respond. If not, I'll clean up my slop.
No, it's okay. Once again, whenever DJT says silly things, inverted commas, they're not silly. And I'll repeat what I said previously because it was an astute observation made in the Atlantic Monthly, which is one of the cabal's premier magazines for brainwashing people.
Yes,
But when Trump won his first election, this one line summed it up most succinctly. And the author said, the reason that Trump won is because the Trump supporters took him seriously, but not literally. The Democrats, his adversary, took him literally, but not seriously. Now, that was a lesson that most of us learned early in the piece. When Trump appears to go off script, and you can catch him sometimes, because he doesn't speak like he does all the time. He's educated, he speaks well, he's quite erudite, he's blunt without a doubt, and a capacity for it. But he was giving a speech the other day, and he almost used the word ideologically, but he realized I can't say that, I've got to sound like a dumbass. And so he changed his word very quickly back to Trumpese, he was speaking, if that makes sense. The guy's not silly, but he puts on this wonderful show. It's like watching, and I was going to play the clip of it, of him fighting Vince McMahon, the owner of World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE. I don't know if you remember, there was a clip of DJT, the Battle of the Billionaires, and there's DJT with his man and Vince McMahon with his guy, and Trump's man won, and then they shaved Vince McMahon's head. But before that, Trump jumped on McMahon and was beating him up on the floor of the arena. And here's what makes me, I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound insulting, but it's like sitting with a bunch of people who then want to sit down and tell me that this is real, the wrestling is real, Trump and McMahon actually were fighting each other, and let's discuss the way he hit him on the ground and he threw the chair at him and then shaved his head. It's show, ladies and gentlemen. It is all show. Trump, when he speaks loosely, when he says things like, we're going to destroy the civilization, then the upshot of that statement is you have this parade of individuals launching attacks on him. Megyn Kelly, that media prostitute who looks like a praying mantis, and who gave comfort to Elephantis of Comet Pizza fame. So she's completely she's coming out against him. Well, with enemies like that, let's keep going. Then you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, the girly man. Don't be a girly man. Well, Schwarzenegger famously said, "Screw your freedoms." Remember him? He's coming out against Trump. So there's this parade of people that you can't trust. Then you've got Candace Owens saying he's a genocidal lunatic. Then you've got MJT, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Burn it all to the ground. Burn it all to the ground. Alex Jones, 25th Amendment. The guy's crazy. Get rid of him. But it was such an obvious assault on DJT from these statements. It's just funny to me. It's it's comedy gold. He called Tucker Carlson a low IQ person who doesn't have a clue what's going on. And the more he does this, the more I laugh. Now, why? Why is he doing this? Why is he threatening to destroy the great Persian civilization in its entirety? Well, first of all, the war's been won. It was won ages ago. It's the old 60-40 rule, force and fraud. In this case, it's 40% force and 60% fraud. You're seeing the film. But the fact they're putting so much effort into these lunatic statements over here, and so much effort into just now with the Melania cruise missile, for example, and everybody is looking that way, what does that tell you? There's stuff going on behind the scenes. Very heavy duty stuff is going on that nobody wants you to see. So that's why it's happening. So please remember, Donald Trump didn't wrestle with Vince McMahon, and Donald Trump has no intention of evaporating the entire civilization. Take him seriously, but not literally. The target audience needs to see this. I had a troop sergeant of mine who loved the wrestling. I said, "Artie, I can't believe you watch that crap." And he goes, "Oh, we know it's bullshit, sir, but it's funny." Okay, in that case, watch the show, have your laugh, but for goodness sake, do yourself a favor, stop taking it seriously. Don't tear your party dress, and it doesn't matter who comes out against DJT. Understand that there is a very sophisticated plan going on. Try to have a corporate memory back to, I don't know, maybe 2016, maybe 2015, or better. Let's go better. Let's go back a couple of presidents and see what was going on and how this massive U-turn has taken place. The ship of state, it's like a super tanker. It takes 2, 3, 4 kilometers just to do a U-turn. Well, you just can't, right hand down and do a U-turn in a super tanker. That's the United States. Make it worse, it's the world. Mm-hmm. It's a fleet of super tankers all having to turn around, and it takes a lot of time. So anyway, for me, I was sitting there with the bride, my chief of staff and lovely wife, and I'm glad there's not a sliver of light between us, because you couldn't do this job if the two of us weren't absolutely as one. And we were just guffawing and laughing as we're going through the list of all the people that were bitch slapping DJT. And the bigger it got, the more we laughed, and we went, okay, we've had our entertainment for the day. Let's get back to work.
Very, very true. Let's take a look at some of these bitch slappers. To my producer, put up image number 6. a split screen with Ricardo and I, and image number 6 on the right panel. Thank you. There's some of them. I pulled this off the social media somewhere. You got Alex Jones, if that's even him. You've got Tucker Carlson. You've got Megyn Kelly, and you've got Candace Owens. And there's others that can be added to this list. Let's look at image number 7. All right, we have Marjorie Trader Brown, as our president says, speaking about entertainment and shows. Well, she says, you may have supported President Trump for 10 years like I did, but this is not the same man. The American people have to open their eyes and deal with reality and deal with the truth. This is not the same man that we support. And she's gone on to say much worse things than that. Maybe image number 8. Is there an image 8? If there is, let's pop it up. Oh, there is. And it can't be read because it's too small. But basically, Candace is pulverizing the president here. What she's done in this post is she's, you know what? Can you go full screen with it? Thank you very much. All right, let me read this. This is Candace Owens. The Iranian president tweets that he is willingly, should say, sacrifice his own life for his people. Donald Trump was willing to sacrifice Charlie Kirk and is willing to sacrifice every American life and livelihood for greater Israel. Who is the animal again? All right, let's go back to Ricardo, Bosi, and I on a double panel. Thank you. Well, there you go. I gave a little more food for fun there, if you will. Jump in, Ricardo.
Oh man, let's stick with the Israel bit, because that's just, again, comedy gold. DJT is Israel's bitch. I'm sorry, folks. Look, on a personal level, I've been accused of being an anti-Semite and a Zionist all at the same time. So on a very small level, very, very modestly small sort of comparison, to have allegations like that thrown is just amusing. It really is. To watch DJT slap with that allegation in the face of 90% plus of the Congress being dual citizens with Israel, and yet they're going to hang Trump out to dry for being a Zionist supporting that. That presupposes that Bibi Netanyahu is Bibi Netanyahu. And once again, he's not. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist. Just get an old picture and a new picture. And it's not the same guy. Israel, the nation, has been under US DJT, white hat control for some time now. So when you see and hear, oh my God, Israel broke the ceasefire, they've launched a terrible attack, and it's just terrible, and Trump's a failure. No, it's all part of the plan, folks. Oh my God, he's a Zionist and he's Israel's bitch. That stopped a long time ago. How do you think the Middle East has been so willing to take a knee, be polite, but let's be honest, to DJT? How is it that DJT can get world leaders to come to his office and get spoken to like a principal talking to some recalcitrant fifth graders? How is it that DJT can have the chief executives of big pharma companies standing behind him looking terribly embarrassed and uncomfortable, and he's saying, these wonderful people, look what they're doing. They're agreeing to lower the price on all these medications. And then he gets the IT gurus to come in and sitting there going, yes, we're going to help Donald Trump with his great ideas. And then some more billionaires are going to turn up and they're going to pay for the ballroom in the White House. Please, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, seriously, you don't think that he has, let me put this as gently as possible, he has it all over them. They are doing what they are told because they have to, not because all of a sudden they're nice people. It's the same thing. It is the same gig all the time. The guy's in charge. The allegations are complete nonsense. They're flushing out the pipes to see which turds finally wash out, because they can't let the people get the reins of power again until the ground is safe. It's like a team doing a siege hostage recovery. The lads go in, they tell everybody to lie down, they shoot anybody that resists, and then one by one, they take the hostages. Once it's all cleared, they don't know who's a hostage and who's a terrorist, right? Because they will all drop to the ground. The terrorists will throw the rifle into somebody else's hands and then pretend to be a hostage. They'll put plastic cuffs on everybody. They'll frog march them out, and then One at a time, they will proof of identity for each individual. Here's a picture of the hostage number 1, number 3, number 18. And then this is the terrorist, and they'll check every one of them one by one. And this takes time, just on a simple siege hostage. It's not like the lads go through and everyone hugs and kisses and home in time for tea and medals. No, the post-op cleanup takes time, including who shot whom with what weapon and why, for example. It becomes a crime scene effectively. A bit different, but except so it's a protracted process. And so, what do you think is going to happen here now? They're doing the same thing. It's a siege hostage situation. The planet has been held hostage. The planet is being liberated, and they've taken out the top people. They're working their way down, and they still need to get the last ones. They don't want any of the terrorists to pretend to be a hostage and get away. And so they're flushing these pipes out to get the last ones. It's pretty straightforward.
Yes. Thank you. We're going to move into a new territory or two in this broadcast. But before we do, I want to kind of put this topic to bed. I've looked at it this way. On social media, people are questioning this narrative of those turning against the president. We're going to put up something in a moment from Dan Scavino and the president regarding this, which I find it amazing, and I'd love to have you weigh in on. But I've stated on social media, AJ, Alex Jones, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Those are the 5 poster boys and girls. And you could probably add a whole lot of other people to that list. But those are the big names. And they're all out there making these outlandish, crazy statements and so forth. And I've posed the question to the viewers, is this a PSYOP? Are they PSYOP players on our side? Are they enemies, or are they clueless? PSYOP players on our side playing the game. Are they enemies of the people, enemies in this war, or are they simply clueless? I broke it down to 3 simple things. Help me out with that as a soundbite summary of this phenomenon that has got everyone all confused, putting us, as you said, this hand over here, this hand's doing this. What is it? Soundbite.
Okay. The consequence of error by one of these actors is high. So you minimize the risk. So what do? If you have someone that you think you've got so much over them and they are so compliant, you can leave the real person in place because you know they will do exactly what they're told, because their fear of exposure literally makes them defecate in their pants. You can use them because there's an authenticity there, and the people can see the face the same as before. Then you've got the one that might be okay, but you're not sure, so they get replaced. Now, they can be replaced because they're not reliable. They might decide to go rogue, can't afford it, and so they'll be replaced. Have a look at Alex Jones. Does he look the same? No. It's the way it goes. And then you got the ones that haven't got a clue. They were taken out. Most of them. Some of them are actually quite useful. You leave them out there because they're so crazy.
Well, there you have it, folks. I'd like to put up on the screen something astounding. Let's put up image number 9 with the president going on 3 decades, as I understand. There are many dedicated people. This was just posted a couple of days ago. There are many dedicated people in government who could leave tomorrow and earn tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars every month as so-called influencers on social media, but they choose to serve the American people instead, all while these so-called influencers talk shit all day long and get paid big money for clicks and impressions. We see you. Go back to the 2 panel. Ricardo, as we're going back to the 2 panel, thank you. Comment on that, if you will, sir. And I'm going to ramp it up even further with a post followed that post by our Commander-in-Chief and President Donald J. Trump. We're now moving into the territory of influencers and podcasters that are disruptive in some way or another. That's a warning shot from Dan Scavino as I see it. How do you see this, sir?
Yeah, it is. It is a warning shot, but it's also a message to us saying that the White Hats have got just about everybody they need. We've got them. Nobody gets away. They have it all. That's what that message actually says.
Okay. It's a bit lengthy, but worth the read. This is from President Donald J. Trump, posted just a day or two ago on the social platforms, and I want Ricardo to weigh in on this. I know why Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones have been fighting me for years, especially by the fact that they think it is wonderful for Iran. In fact, to my producer, put it up on the screen. I'll continue to read. So the president says, especially by the fact that they think it is wonderful for Iran, the number one state sponsor of terror, to have a nuclear weapon, because they have one thing in common: low IQs. They're stupid people. They know it. Their families know it, and everyone else knows it. Everyone else knows it too. Look at their past. Look at their record. They don't have what it takes, and they never did. They've been thrown off television, lost their shows, and aren't even invited on TV because nobody cares about them. They're nut jobs, troublemakers, and will say anything necessary for some free and cheap publicity. President goes on to say, now they think they get some clicks because they have third-rate podcasts, but nobody's talking about them. And their views are the opposite of MAGA, or I wouldn't have won the presidential election in a landslide. MAGA agrees with me and just gave CNN a 100% approval rating of Trump, not handing flailing fools like Tucker Carlson, who couldn't even finish college. He was a broken man when he got fired from Fox, and he's never been the same. Perhaps he should see a good psychiatrist. Or Megyn Kelly, who nastily asked me the now famous only Rosie O'Donnell question, or crazy Candace Owens, who accuses the highly respected First Lady of France of being a man. I want to weigh in on that aspect with Ricardo in a moment, when she is not, and will hopefully win lots of money in an ongoing lawsuit. Actually, to me, the First Lady of France is far more beautiful than Candace. In fact, it's not even close. Or bankrupt Alex Jones, who says some of the dumbest things and lost his entire fortune, as he should have, for his horrendous attack on families of the Sandy Hook shooting victims, ridiculously claiming it was a hoax. Their so-called pundits are losers, and they always will be. Now, fake news CNN, the failing New York Times, and all of the other radical left news organizations are hailing them and giving them positive press for the first time in their lives. They're not MAGA, they're losers, just trying to latch on to MAGA. As president, I could get them on my side anytime I want to. But when they call, I don't return their calls because I'm too busy on world and country affairs. And after a few times, they go nasty, just like Marjorie Trader Brown. But I no longer care about that stuff. I only care about doing right for our country. MAGA is about winning and strength in not allowing Iran to have nuclear weapons. MAGA is about making America great again. And these people have no idea how to do that, but I do. Because the United States is now the hottest country anywhere in the world. President Donald J. Trump, two-panel Ricardo, Bosi, and I. Wow. Now, chime in, sir. Lot there, but really not. Tell us what's going on. Enjoy the show.
It's wrestling. Yep, it's wrestling. Do you remember what DJT said about all his opponents in the lead up that they were selecting the Republican candidate for the election in 2016? And he was downright insulting and brutal to the other candidates. There was no camaraderie. There was no sort of team spirit. Let's pick the best of them. He just brutally tore them apart. And the moment when the moment was right, he then said, "Wonderful chaps, good people, wonderful guys. Marco Rubio, love the guy. It's the
Little
same
Marco.
playbook, ladies and gentlemen. Please, Marco, little Marco." And it's the same playbook. It really is. And if you still don't get Trump, please read the book. Read his book. He didn't write it. The author sat with him and watched him work, and then distilled what Trump does into basically the formula. This is how Trump works. Could Trump have written the book? Probably. Did he have time? No. Was he interested? No. In your billionaire, you don't sit there tapping on a keyboard. You have people come in and say, write it down, and he did. And what you learn about DJT is he starts in the most ridiculous position. Any negotiation, it's just obscenely ridiculous. The purchase of Mar-a-Lago is a classic case. And I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like this. Mar-a-Lago's for sale, and he said, and they said, let's pick a number. They wanted 15 million for it, and he went, I'll give you 8. And they said no, and he walked away. And nobody was buying the joint. And they came to him later and said, okay, we'll take 8. He said, no, I'm going to give you 5 now. That's how DJT negotiates. That's how he works. He doesn't play by anybody's rules but his own. So if you think you can assess DJT's actions based on projecting your own views of how the world should work, you're going to lose every time. If you want to understand the man, read the book, understand the man. It's a real gift to be able to look through somebody else's eyes, particularly whether it's an ally or an adversary. But as a fighter, you've got to look through the eyes of your adversary. You've got to see the world from their perspective. There's no point saying, well, I'm a commissioned officer in a Western army, and we have a history of Christianity and Geneva Convention and blah, blah. Great. Fantastic. But you've got to look at the world through the eyes of your enemy, and your enemy doesn't care. Your enemy rapes and kills women because they got raped, because they charge them with adultery, for example. Or they'll marry 5 or 6-year-olds and consummate that at age 6. That's the way they see the world. That's normal. We are fools. You've got to look at the world through your adversary's eyes. You've got to look at the world through your own. You've got to look at it through your allies. You've got to look at it through the target audience with whom you must travel this journey. You've got to see through their eyes and not just project your own values and history and morality onto everybody else and say, I'm right, you're wrong. Now, you can say it, but you can't fight that way. You've got to fight the way that's going to most effectively eliminate that individual from the planet. And we can talk about this in a bit more time now if you want to. But that's, for example, why he's being so vocally brutal about Iran. That's all they fucking understand, ladies and gentlemen. Iran, not under the Shah. Iran, the Persians, under Ayatollah Khomeini, when they fought their multi-year war against Iraq, the Iranians would send children with guns into the Iraqi positions, and the Iraqis were having psychotic shocks because they had to shoot hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children because that's what the Iranians sent. Now look through the eyes of that lunacy and tell me that sitting down and negotiating with them and having a truce and trusting them is a smart way forward. And we'll talk about it if you want to, but I'm prepared to go hammer and tong on this one because, as I said once before as an analogy, if you put an X-ray of somebody's brain up on the wall, I'd no idea what I'm looking at. I couldn't tell you whether it's right, wrong, whether they're healthy or sick. I have no expertise in that area, but looking at wars, I've got a little bit of expertise. And I know what I'm looking at. I know what works and what doesn't work. And if you can read, you'll understand it. But anyway, so no, the fact that he's being so brutal with his words, that's DJT. That's the way he works. You understand that. And you work with it and look behind the strategy at what he's actually trying to achieve.
Thank you, sir. This is just a sort of a quick comment, sidebar, if you will, to what I read from the president when he invoked the attractiveness or lack thereof in comparison between Candace Owens and the First Lady of France. I think he raised that narrative, thrown that in there because there's another narrative to be had about who that First Lady is in France, but that's just my dad. Thank you for the acknowledgement. I want to move us into this because the show's lengthy as I expected it to be, but a power-packed show with great information and great analysis. Thank you, sir. I think about the old Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Okay, so here's the bad. The big crash, we're talking about the economy in this sense. The big crash is closer than you may think. President Trump, by the way, published, it was sent to me by Will Barney, a gentleman I'm becoming very, very I'm just very happy he's in my fold. He's a wealth of knowledge, a recovering banker. And anyway, he sent me this clip from the president that the president posted on Truth Social. I went and looked it up. Uh, and you had like, nice music playing. I think it was, if I recall, a colorized version of 1929. Everyone knows what that year represents, the big market crash of 29. And they're showing a video clip of actual people at that time walking. Of course, the men had top hats and suits, and the ladies were elegantly dressed as women instead of blue hair and tattoos all over the place. And you had respectable society moving through New York City, say, streets, and polite, fun music playing. And then what happens is these same people are all of a sudden lined up on a soup kitchen or bread line. And that was the video, nothing else and nothing more to it. No words spoken, fun music, and showing this. Now, that's a pretty clear message coming from the president, 1929. I figured I'd throw that in there. So now I say this. The big crash is closer than you may think. Trump will be universally blamed. Financial systems will implode. People will lose money. Corporations will go out of business. Certain cities, as Juan O'Savin has indicated, due to the bond debacle, will collapse. And some people may not get paid in pensions and perhaps other things. Stocks, investments, and pensions may be wiped out, varying degrees. Living standards for a period of time may plummet. Supply infrastructure will break down. Digital IDs, CBCs, UBI, and rationing will be implemented shortly after a brutal period of inactivity. Now, there's some potential bad that I just laid out. We're going to go into potential good that follows that. But I'd like you to weigh in on what I just commented upon, especially coming off the heels of a 1929 clear comp from President Trump by publishing that. That coupled with what I just said, what's your feedback on those subjects?
Yeah, that's an interesting summary that you've put into the bad category. I can actually identify most of that as pretty good. And people look at me and go, "You heartless bastard." No, not at all. Point number one, we've been telling people for years, prepare. And preparation is it's just insurance. Am I concerned if my car's damaged or written off in an accident? No, why? Because it's insured. If it wasn't insured, I'd be driving like a turtle to ensure safety. But I can live my life because the car's insured. As a metaphor, so to speak, right? Okay, so if you're prepared, now this comes down to self-reliance. Whose job is it to make sure that you've got money in the bank or you've got wealth? Yours. Whose job is it to have food in the pantry? Yours. Whose job is it to keep you healthy? Yours. But unfortunately, the whole world on this simple concept of self-reliance is let's trust government. Government will provide everything. No, just no. Now, let's get to somewhere that's really going to hurt people and say, well, how can you say that? Well, how about this? Your stocks and bonds will be worth nothing. That's not fair. That's my money. I worked for it. I invested it. Okay. Let's say that the underlying business model that has provided you a very comfortable return on your investment over many years has been draining the blood out of tortured children and shipping it overseas. And that's the business model that has pumped up your portfolio. I think there's a term called proceeds of crime. You don't get to keep it. So if your stocks portfolio is predicated on a bunch of companies controlled by BlackRock, etc., and their corrupt practices produce proceeds of crime, then that money ain't yours anyway. It's corrupted money. It's blood money. So if it disappears, tough. Take it up with your corporation. Don't take it up with the sheriff that cleaned out the town, that cleaned out the crooked mine owner, the crooked brothel owner, the crooked pub owner. No. So you will lose money because guess what? It's proceeds of crime. Another example, the Masonic filth that runs most of the planet, certainly runs all of Australia. These people have houses and wealth and beyond your imagination. They're going to lose it all. They will lose it all. Proceeds of crime. Very simple. Oh, but you can't do that. Yeah, you can. Yes, you bloody can. And that's what's going to happen. And on top of that, excuse me, so pick a high-ranking member of the judiciary who's on the bench, can't be challenged. Well, guess what, mate? Every cent you've earned, proceeds of crime. So you, your bride, and your children will be going down to the local social security office or whatever you call it in your country, and you'll be drawing a stipend like everybody else because your properties are now gone. Now, what happens when all these properties come on the market? Because the whole bloody country is propped up on this. The price of the local housing is going to drop like a stone. Now, the overpriced ones, and we've been saying this for years, nothing new. The hopelessly overpriced properties, because that's the way they do it. They pump up the prices so they can claim whatever they can claim on it. They'll drop simply because the real value will now be paramount. The housing prices that are not overly inflated, they won't drop by much. They'll hold their value. It's just the inflated prices of real estate, for example, that will crash. Are people going to be out of food? Yep. We've been warning people about that too. For goodness sake, what you've got to do, ladies and gentlemen, and we've said this for years, and on the Green Room, my weekly show to the A1 people in Australia, we'll put up a little slide that says, here's how you prepare. This is the stuff you need in your cupboard. You need this, that, and the other. Put it in there, and we put it up. Do that. And then we also add, for goodness sake, put some aside for your idiot neighbour who isn't ready, and he comes to your door holding his 3 kids in his hand saying, do you have some milk so I can feed my family? So, of course, have some for them as well to look after your immediate neighbourhood. Now, it is, and we also say this, it is not your job to save the country. You don't have to empty your pantry and give everything to the idiot next door. No, you'll just give him what you can afford to give him because you've got to look after your family. And here's again what we've been saying, and I don't mean to harp on this, but it's the story of Nehemiah out of the Bible. The Persians threw out the Babylonians. The Babylonian exile is finished. The walls surrounding Jerusalem had been destroyed, and the walls in the old days protected the city. Without walls, the cities were vulnerable. The walls had been destroyed for decades. And Nehemiah, who was I think a cupbearer, whatever that means, for Artaxerxes, I think if I think it's Artaxerxes. He went to Artaxerxes and said, I think God's telling me I've got to go repairs the walls to Jerusalem. So he gave him the resources to go in. Nehemiah had a look at Jerusalem, wandered around at night in secret to check the walls out. And then he saw the state of affairs because they were under threat of attack all the time. He gathered everyone together and said, repair the wall, the city wall that is immediately in front or beside your house. That's all you have to worry about. Because every man knows that he will build a wall for his children that is impenetrable. And if you're building a wall for somebody else, eventually you're going to be tired and go, oh, yeah, okay. Look, how about you look after your family? I'll look after mine. And that was a theory. So I think it was 52 days, because every family was looking after the wall in front of or in adjacent to their own home. Jerusalem had the walls back up again and could protect themselves against their adversaries. And as they repaired the walls, they had a shovel in one hand and their weapon in the other because they were under attack. So these were tough times. So the same principle operates here and now. Look after yourself, look after those either side of you, but that's about it. You're not there to starve your family because some Masonic piece of filth hasn't got enough milk in his fridge. That's his problem to solve. Now, I don't mean to sound brutal, but I'm going to tell you, it's going to be very easy to say no to any neighbors that come to me and say, can you give us some stuff? No, not happening. Not happening. We'll give you a little bit, but we've got enough for our family. Now, how long is it going to last? Is it going to last? Is it going to happen? Yes, it will. But this is a good thing because the entire edifice of our economy is corrupted. There is nothing about the global economy that is the least bit laudable. Nothing. Above a certain level. And this applies in your town, in your state, in your country, and around the world. Above a certain level, you will not be allowed to succeed unless you sell your soul. And I mean that literally, not metaphorically. You can run the local corner store and have a comfortable living, but if you try to franchise that and get it out there and make a gazillion bucks, very quickly you'll meet the people who really run the economy. It is all proceeds of crime. The entire edifice must come down. It must crash. It will hurt. That's I'm not saying that with any sense of joy. It's just a necessity. It is just a necessity. Mm-hmm. There will be pain. Nobody, me and John included, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to come out of this and go, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. We didn't see it all coming. All of us are going to get hurt one way or another. And it might be a physical shock, like you've lost your years of investment, or just the moral wound of the depravity of the people when some of the truly gruesome stuff comes out and you're nearly sick to your stomach that people could do that to other people. And so in terms of just the depression and the food queues and the rest of it, yeah, buckle up. Buckle up. We've said it again and again and again and again. And if you didn't hear it, well, I'm sorry, but we have shouted this from the rooftops for a long time. A1's been specifically working very hard on this everywhere we go. You can only do your best. And when it all comes down, you're going to pay the price for not paying attention.
Well, I have to tell our audience to go back and listen to the last perhaps 5, 6, 7 minutes of this show. That segment is a whole lot of truth bombs, a whole lot of reality, and incredible analysis and great advice. Pray, plan, and prepare. Thank you, Ricardo. I want to move to the good. We just spoke about the bad. It's inevitable. It's coming. It's coming sooner than we think. Don't discard President Trump's post of 1929 2 days ago. There's a reason for that post, folks. All right, let's talk about the good. Trump is playing 5D chess. War ends. Oil drops. Inflation goes away. Jerome Powell's out. Kevin Walsh is in over the Fed. And what is Kevin Walsh? Per President Trump, for all those that think we're crazy, that this isn't a movie and a script to some extent, President Trump published that Kevin Walsh, you'll love everything about him because, quote, he is central casting, end quote. So we have Trump playing 5D chess, war ends, oil drops, inflation collapses, Powell's out, Kevin Walsh is in, rates get cut, liquidity floods into the economy, markets pump up, including certain cryptos, and there's only 9 ISO compliant cryptos for people to look at, sailing us into the midterms. Whether the Save America Act passes or not, matters not. There's a plan in place. We sweep, and there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. We covered the bad and the ugly. There's the good. What say you, sir?
Yep. Yeah, exactly right. When the people realize how much they have lived a life of servitude, literal slaves, that will shock them. But the release to become genuinely free for the first time, to be able to do with your days as you wish, how you wish to spend your time, it'll just blow people away. Now, we've mentioned this before, but we'll say it again. The two first pieces of low-hanging fruit that need to be plucked and delivered to the people is wealth, and the second is health. With those two in their hands, the people can take off like a rocket. The wealth will be, as you know, when there is no need for taxes, for example. Just there is none. So the $1,000 you earn in that week, that's your 1,000. You keep it. Australia, and here's an example that is shocking most Australians. And every country has its own strengths and weaknesses. You know, Singapore, for example, tiny island, but strategically critical piece of land for shipping, for example. So they have to play to their strength. Australia, land mass almost the size of continental US. We are the Saudi Arabia of the Southern Hemisphere. We are so stinking rich with resources. Nobody in this country should pay for anything, and they won't, because the wealth is here. Do you think the Qataris pay for university? No. Do you think the Qataris pay for anything? No. Why? Oil. Good luck to them. We sit on the same, but we've got corrupted politicians, bureaucrats, military, judiciary, you name it, media, academic, just corrupted. We give our gas away to Japan so they can sell it for a profit. The companies that come into this country and take the resources out pay virtually no tax. This is by design. Once we get a hold of our resources, the Australian people won't have to pay for a thing. Because why? The country's stinking rich. We can build all the roads, airports, bridges, seaports, schools, hospitals. Not a problem. And we'll do that, and we'll give the power to the people. For example, I laid out a model earlier this week of what it looks like for us to run our country. And just as a suggestion, and this is just a suggestion, imagine now you're in Australia and you've got county councils, and we're going to rebuild rural Australia, towns between 50 and 100,000. And each of those towns will have, and there's a rule here, it gets a bit technical, but listen to this. The optimum number of representatives for any group is the cubed root of the total population. So whatever number multiplied by itself 3 times, that's the cubed root. So if you've got a population of 8 people, what's the cubed root rate? 2. So you need 2 people to run 8. And you apply that to 50 to 100,000 person town, cube root of that, that gives you the number of representatives you need. Not too big, not too small, close enough to be personal, not so big that you become impersonal. You do that with the counties, and then you do the regions. And you might get 5 to 10 counties that come together as regions, and that number of people might be now in the millions. And once again, you get the cube root of that, and you have the regional governments, and their job is to coordinate across the entire those counties to make sure there's economies of scale. Then you've got states, same thing again. Then you've got the federal, same thing again. So you've got all this wealth coming into the hands of the people at the lowest possible level where they make the decisions. So the counties will make decisions on schools, the hospitals, the rest of it. And so this golden age has many facets to it. I'm just talking about the hard practical stuff that people are genuinely interested in. I get it. I mean, there are higher esoteric issues to the golden age, which are magnificent, but let's leave that to one side. Just on a hard practical level, the people will get the money they need to live their lives they want to live. And all of a sudden, the pressure is off. You are no longer slaves. And as they say, bread is for slaves and meat is for the kings. Well, guess what? You don't have to eat bread unless you really want to. You don't have to stuff your food basket with stuff that fills the belly but doesn't nourish the body. You'll be able to buy and eat real food, for example. And so life, the aspects of life that will become so much more exciting, beneficial, pleasant even, just nice. I mean, what's the old story? If you're a boss and you've got to make a decision and you need to be hard on that decision, you do it before lunch. If you want to be magnanimous, you do it after lunch. Why? A full belly affects your morality. A full wallet affects your morality. And so that capacity for generosity, which is inherent in us, except it sometimes doesn't sneak out as often as it should, but with everybody free from the bondage of servitude under which we have lived for all our lives. Once that is gone, watch humanity become what it truly can become. We are not the cancer on the planet that the Greens and the socialists would tell you that we are. We're an extraordinary race. And even in a galactic and universal sense, we're pretty unique. We are really special.
Yes.
Our capacity to connect to our Creator personally does not exist everywhere. It just doesn't. That's a whole new episode and a whole new story. But the fact is, we can actually start becoming what we were capable of being.
Yes, thank you, sir. And, moving off into galactic and the golden age and all that requires an episode in and of itself. And we are going to talk about, before we close out, May 17th, 49 days, call to prayer, and July 4th in a moment, and a new currency. I know you've got some information that I think is a good time for us to plug in based on what you and I have covered in this broadcast and the subjects that we're talking about now. We are going to have a new currency. The president, the Treasury Department published a press release. I put it out last week. People have seen it, where President Trump will be the first president in history, sitting president, to have his signature on all the new currency, along with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. So this is official. This has been published by the Treasury Department and goes on to say that this is the beginning of the stages of our new currency, which I jump into in great detail. Quick announcement to our audience. If you don't know, every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, I publish a different show. The only reason Ricardo hasn't visited us there is scheduling. But I will take sound bites of your comments, Ricardo, in this broadcast and publish it on my next GFR because it's so powerful, so applicable, and so important. But anyway, new currency, all those issues. Tune into the Global Financial Reset every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And we're publishing, just published on Saturday, a GFR that was done emergency broadcast on a Zoom, but you'll want to watch it while Ricardo's queuing things up. I'm just buying a little time here. I also want to say that, so Ricardo and I are going to close out with comments about the importance and power in the spiritual battle between God and Satan, between good and evil. We're going to talk about the power of that prayer on May 17th. We're going to talk about July 4th and the birth of a new currency and the birth of the restored nation in just a moment. But Ricardo and I covered the attacks against Trump, the coordinated efforts against Trump, the exposing and issues that we've talked about, the going after the podcasters, the Alex Joneses of the world, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, Candace Owens. We covered all that. If we're ready, let's go ahead and put together and air right now what Ricardo has prepared, a video clip and an interesting educational PowerPoint. Are we prepared to run that? If
So
we
do you
are,
want to
let's
cover
do
the
so.
yeah,
Go
in a
ahead.
second, John. We've got two here. I wanted to make that comment about DJT meeting with the heads of the banks about the threat posed by a particular AI, and the other one was it was in relation to the attacks against Trump and his belligerent statements about Iran, and just that video of the gentleman explaining how DJT negotiated with the head of the Taliban. Which one would you like to go through first?
Let's knock out the Taliban Iran situation with those gentlemen and have some follow-up dialogue, and then we'll go into the economic aspect of this and close out with the PowerPoint, and then that'll be the content you'll be sharing, and then I'll wrap up the broadcast. So take it away with the gentleman with Iran and so forth.
Give you my favorite President Trump story. This is my number one favorite of all time. When we were negotiating with the Taliban, while President Trump was still the president, President Trump wanted to get out of Afghanistan, but he wanted a conditions-based withdrawal, meaning that you do what we tell you to do, and then we will start pulling troops back slowly as long as you abide by our rules. It's President Trump and Mike Pompeo, and they are talking to Taliban leadership in the room, and they had one translator in the room. President Trump looked at the Taliban leader and said this: "I want to leave Afghanistan, but it's going to be a conditions-based withdrawal." And translator translated. And he said, "If you harm a hair on a single American, I'm going to kill you." And the translator goes, and Trump goes, "Tell him, translate.
Yes.
Tell him what I said. Tell him what I said." Reached in his pocket, pulled out a satellite photo of the leader of the Taliban's home and handed it to him.
Shut up.
Got up and walked out the room.
Okay. People have been saying that Trump's a lunatic. He's unhinged. He's threatening to destroy civilizations. We've already dealt with that. He's not going to destroy anything. But he understands the enemy. He understands how to look through the eyes of his enemy, as was demonstrated by that discussion by that gentleman. Now, let me just go back to General Charles Napier, GCB. He said this: "The great receipt for quieting a country," and receipt's the correct word. In the old days, it meant prescription or method. "The great receipt for quieting a country is a good thrashing first and a great kindness afterwards. The wildest chaps are thus tamed." Napier applied this philosophy to quelling rebellions and managing local customs in India, notably during his time in the Sindh, which he conquered in 1843. Now you must be saying, my God, this is barbaric, 19th century morality. Let's beat up the little black natives until they do what they're told to do. And this is nothing but empire at its worst. Bosi, what are you saying? Are you comparing Trump to Napier? This obvious barbarian in his own way? No, I'm saying that Trump, like Napier, knows how to win wars, unlike the sweet biscuits that run the Western defense forces around the country. And sweet biscuit is a term I'm using from my time in Papua New Guinea, meaning homosexual. Not picking on the gays, except they're a little effeminate in their approach to war fighting. So let me make another point here about Napier and why Trump is saying what he's saying the way it needs to be said so his enemies understand what he's doing. This is not for mum and dad at home in flyover country in the US. This is for the bastards that have no sense of right and wrong that even equates anything that we understand to that statement. And here's the evidence of it, why it's necessary and why it is good when applied correctly. There was a practice in India called sati. I've spoken about it before, where the wife of a recently deceased man, so a recently made widow, had to throw herself on the funeral pyre and kill herself. And Napier said, "This is barbaric. You won't do it." He called in the local priest and said, "No more." And they said to him, "How dare you interfere with our religious practices? You can't do that. These are thousands of years old. You may not interfere with our religious practices." Now, the sweet biscuits running the Western countries these days would go, "Oh, yeah, okay." But not Napier. Napier said, "Why?" He said, "Well, we have customs." And he replied like this: "Be it so. This windows is your custom. Prepare the funeral pile. But my nation also has a custom. When men burn women alive, we hang them and we confiscate all their property. Carpenters shall therefore erect gibbets on which to hang all concerned when the widow is consumed." Guess what? The practice of sati almost evaporated immediately. Now, I'm guessing there are millions of Indian women that are very happy that a brutal barbarian like Napier had the testicular fortitude to tell the Hindu priests to go fuck themselves, and that their respect for life is something the rest of the Indians now need to apply. This is the same thing with DJT and Iran. It's part show, but it's part message. I've had 5 years lived experience in the Middle East. They laugh at us when we turn the other cheek. Now, I'm happy to turn the other cheek, but if by doing so I see a knife coming at me, I will kill the opponent without apology. We in the West have forgotten that's how we win wars. So anybody that think that Trump is a lunatic, if they sincerely believe it, if they sincerely can't see what's going on, then fuck them. And I don't mean to be cranky, but I bloody am, because I am sick to death of armchair experts opining on stuff they have no idea about. This is a war being fought by a team without precedent. If you don't know what you're doing, then just sit down, shut up, and learn. So that's point number one. I just want to make that point to anybody that's listening out there that thinks that DJT is some deranged psychopath like people are saying. But keep saying it, because your name's being taken and we know exactly who you are and what you're doing and for whom you work and how much you get paid. But for the good people out there that are getting confused by this ridiculous behavior of the others, need to understand that there is a bigger war at work here. And it's important that you understand this. If you are presuming to be the source of law in your country, if you are presuming to think that you have the ability to run a council, let alone a region, let alone a state, let alone a nation, then best you sit down, shut up, and take a few notes and learn how the life really works. And on top of that, start doing something practical other than just selling fear porn and reposting nonsense.
Yes.
Because that's what most of these people are doing. They're just selling fear porn. None of them are contributing manifestly or practically to a solution. So choose
Correct.
which side you're on. But understand this: if you get in my way, I'll knock you out of the fucking way. This is the message to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked me the other day, would I serve under anybody in Australia? And I said, absolutely not. And that sounds terribly arrogant. It's not. Because I've yet to see anybody in this country with the character or capability to actually run the joint. Now, can I do it? Probably not. And there are people out there that could, probably. But where have they been the last 10 years? What have they done in the last 10 years? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I just needed to get that off my chest, John, because what's critical at this moment in the war, so many people are being confused. Good people, innocent people, people that don't understand the war. They're being led astray by individuals that should be just gently dispatched and put off to the side, because they're causing real pain to real innocent people. People that didn't know better, but you can't realistically expect them to have known any better, because life's tough. Not everyone has a degree. Not everybody can read. Not everybody has the time. Some are working 2.5 jobs just to feed the family. We have some friends, good people. He's a truck driver, and she's the mother of 3. They have children with special needs. They live in a house that leaks. It's owned by this Masonic piece of filth that charges them extraordinary rent and won't maintain the joint. And these people smile every day through the pain of daily life. And they are still out there helping people, donating their time, donating their money. So if I'm a little bit agitated, a little bit exercised by this, you bet I am, because I keep watching people who should know better and they should do better, but they don't. So when the pain comes, you know who's going to be hurt? Not our friends who are God's gift to their local community. It's mainly the Masonic filth and those that just suck up resources and lord it over others, thinking that my portfolio makes me famous. Well, your portfolio is going to be worth nothing, and I'm going to laugh all the way as you struggle to the bank trying to get 10 cents out to feed them. Payback's coming, and you deserve everything you get. Okay, that's that one. Next.
Well, hard truth
You want
and
to,
tough love. Next, sir.
Okay. Now, there was a piece of news came out recently, and it's about finance. It starts with finance and it finishes with AI, and this is something I want people to really pay attention to. It's a bit of a bugbear of mine, because the naivety again of people who think they know what they're talking about are deceiving others, and it's genuinely painful to watch them do it. DJT recently had a meeting with a number of the heads of a number of banks, and the reason for that was there was an AI scare, and the AI was the activity of that particular AI system was risking the security of the bank's systems, could collapse the whole system. And I looked into it beyond that concerning bit. And it relates to an AI system called Mythos. Now, here's a couple of quotes from the people that create this, and then I'll give a bit of a comment on them. Early versions of the model repeatedly displayed what the company called reckless destructive action. So it's a bit like teaching a psychopathic child how to read and write, and knowing that this psychopathic child is going to go rogue one day. And then another follow-up comment by the designer of this particular AI, but, and this is supposed to make us feel better, the most psychologically settled model we have trained, this one, is the most psychologically settled model we have trained. Now, I've previously mentioned my concern about AI and how they build it. Sam Altman, OpenAI, ChatGPT, was saying, when asked the question, what sort of morality do you plug into, do you set into this model? And he said, oh, well, what's just the aggregate morality of the planet? Now, think about the aggregate morality of the planet. It's bloody awful. And that's what these imbeciles are creating. Yeah. Now, we have people that don't know how to identify a boy and a girl. We have people that will happily cut the penis off their sons or the breasts off their daughters because somebody told them it was a good idea. We have people that boil dogs for dinner. We have people that, and you can fill in the bank with every depraved act on the planet. Mm-hmm. And we think that we can create AI and intelligence. Do we think we can actually play God when we can't even moderate our own behavior? And yet they're going to release this on the planet? I find it excruciatingly painful that some people could be so dense. Seriously, you can't put one and one together and get two and realize it. Now, I was playing a game with AI the other day, and I asked it to rewrite the 3 laws of robotics for AI, because there are no 3 laws of robotics for AI. Now, I'm going to put those up on the screen, just the original ones, so you can see what I'm talking about, because this is important. If people think that this is a fringe issue, they're missing the point. This is extraordinarily important, and an idea that people need to get to, simply because, oops, wait, let me just get around to it. There we go. Just tell me when you see that, John. You got the 3 laws of robotics on the screen?
We do.
Right. Now, Isaac Asimov wrote this. He's an author, and it was a fictional framework for ensuring robot safety, prioritizing human life above all. 1, robots cannot injure humans or allow them to come to harm. 2, robots must obey human orders unless they violate the first law. 3, robots must protect themselves unless they violate the first 2 laws. AI has nothing like that. This is genuinely a psychotic intelligence, meaning it cannot identify and apply boundaries to its own actions. And on top of that, AI eventually reaches a moment of sentience. And without these, what do you think pure evil looks like? Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. We're at a point in history where we're either smart or dumb. And if we're smart, we survive. If we're dumb, we don't. Human development. This is a critical moment. Now, to put a final simple example of what I'm talking about, I'm going to play for you now the end scene to a film called War Games, 1983. Great film. I'm sorry to spoil the end for you, but this is a movie about taking the human out of the loop in decision making with the deployment of nuclear response to the Soviet Union. So it's 83, the Cold War's in full flight, and both sides have a strategy called mutually assured destruction, MAD. If you fire your nuke, we'll fire our nuke, and we are mutually assured of our own destruction. And that was supposed to maintain the balance. Perhaps the idea that humans hadn't evolved sufficiently high enough to control nuclear weapons never occurred to them. But anyway, so here we're at the movie, and some kid hacks into the machine, thinks it's a game machine, and wants to play a game of thermonuclear war, starts playing the game, the computer thinks it's real, and away the movie runs. So they can't control the machine, and the machine is about to launch a thermonuclear war simply because it's programmed to do so. There is no human in the loop. So that's the moment we're at. They're terrified. It's about to happen. And I want you to watch this because this is a lesson that we must learn. It's a great film. Sorry to spoil the end, but here we go. And just make sure, John, give me a call that you can hear the volume.
Will do.
Put the list back up.
We're good.
Yes, put it up.
Good.
It's not on the list. What's not on the list? Go ahead. It's got to be in there somewhere. Tick, tack, toe. You're in. Order to disarm the missiles. No.
5 numbers. This guy has the code.
Sorry? Put X in the center square. No.
There's
no way you can win that game. I know that. It doesn't. It hasn't learned. Is there any way to make it play itself? Yes, number of players 0. Learn, goddammit. Must be caught in the loop, storing more and more power from the rest of the system.
9 numbers. 10. He's got the code. It's going to launch.
Get me a long status report. Major Davis, get me the president. Yes, sir. How you doing, Colonel? Sir, all landlines out of the mountain. They're dead. I'm trying to break through on satellites. Okay. It's learning. Greetings, Professor Fulton. Hello, Joshua. Strange game. The only winning move is not to play. How about a nice game of chess? Colonel Conley, take us to DEFCON 5. Yes, sir.
How about a nice game of chess? Let's get a double panel and Ricardo back on to follow up on that. There he is.
Thanks for indulging me there, John. Thank you so much for indulging me, because this is an issue that strikes pretty close to my heart. The advantage of being our age, John, is that we grew up under the shadow of nuclear holocaust. You'll remember, as I do, images of children practicing hiding under their desks at school in case the nukes were released. You'll remember, as I do, the construction of nuclear shelters in the back garden in case the nukes were released. And in the same decade that I was watching the fake landing on the moon, I also saw movies where the entire planet was engulfed in a nuclear war. Deaths of tens of hundreds of millions of people. And that, and I'm glad I'm old enough to remember that, because that final scene where it says, "Strange game, the only winning move is not to play." There is so much power in that, and it communicates some fundamentals that we seem to have forgotten: boundaries, limits, self-imposed limits. That anything goes now. It's okay. Give Iran a nuclear weapon. Now, is it fair that one country should be denied a nuclear weapon and another one be allowed to have it? Damn right it is. Because unless you have a moral people, they have no capacity to control their knives and their AK-47s, let alone a nuke. So no. Is it fair? Tough. Is it going to guarantee survival if we keep weapons like that out of the hands of lunatics? Absolutely. And those lunatics have to fix their own religion. DJT said it. It's not up to us to fix Islam. It's not up to us to fix Hinduism. It's not up to us to fix Judaism. The three major religions that are the major cause of disaster on this planet on a human scale. The only one that has a hope of winning is Christianity. So too bad, guys, discover Christ or suffer the consequences. But we're not going to let you destroy the planet. That's on a collective scale. On an individual level, people have to realize they have a responsibility. There are some games you don't play because you don't win. And there are too many lunatics out there that are happy to push the boundary beyond their capacity to foresee the future. Well, again, that requires a level of prescience and wisdom and erudition and training and knowledge. And this must apply to all of us if we, as I've said for the 100th time, presume to say that we are the source of law and we are responsible for the planning, writing, and execution of that law. All of us have to be at that level. All of us have to know boundaries. All of us have to be able to see beyond the end of our nose to see the consequences of our action. And AI is one of these issues. And the future of this planet is predicated on us learning some hard lessons very fast. And if that means constraining ourselves for a time by choice, constraining ourselves by choice, then so be it. We must do it to survive. Because there's no rule that says we're going to survive. But you think you think God's going to says, yeah, where you go, destroy yourselves. It's all good. We have to step up. And that movie it's a fun movie. It's a great film. Show the kids. We showed our daughters last night. And they got the message very quickly. I said, family fun night tonight, kids. We're watching a film. And sometimes we give them terribly boring adult stuff that they don't want to watch, but it's got a good lesson. But last night, that had their attention within the first couple of minutes. And they learned some very salient lessons. The big one is strange game. The only winning move is not to play. And if there are people on the planet that want to play that game, we'll remove them from the planet to make sure the rest of humanity has a chance. So thank you again for indulging me on that, John. I truly appreciate it.
Well, thank you for bringing all that to the surface. You know, you and I have talked briefly on air and a bit off air over these last few months about the subject of AI. You know, we understand the great asset and value it can be in helping us. And we also understand it may be very much outside of ignorance, perhaps the greatest danger facing us. And you and I and others are going to be developing programs, educational formats, and all types of things on that subject once we get past the battles that are facing us today. And I just want to comment on Isaac Asimov's 3 laws. I've said this before, to keep those 3 laws simple, and looking at what you showed us, the PowerPoint following that video clip, and the AI at the end here with the war, the computer thing. Garbage in, garbage out. If there aren't these laws to protect us with AI, that's a lot of garbage in. You can expect some serious garbage coming out. So we're going to jump into that. But I'd like to end this broadcast, of course, on a positive note. And May 17th, Ricardo, coming up is President Trump calling a national prayer at the malls, I understand. But it's more than just a call to prayer for one day. It's a 49-day prayer. And it's helping us resurrect America as it was intended, God ordained, founding fathers back then. Here we are approaching July 4th, May 17th, July 4th, then a new currency at the same time, in a series of steps towards where we're heading with that. Goes beyond the scope of our discussion right now. But if you wouldn't mind closing this show out, and I reminded our audience in the beginning, typically Bosi Briefs is 75 to 90 minutes long, where we cover a half a dozen of the key issues, and Ricardo makes sense of it all for us. This one a little bit beyond that, and I'm glad we did. This is an important broadcast. I hope everybody shares it far and wide out there. There's a lot of important information weighed in on and revealed by Ricardo. Close us out, if you will, on the importance of this prayer. May 17th, June and July 4th, trigger months, trigger dates at this incredible time right now. What's your view of all of that?
Sure, I'll be brief. The key point here is this. This is God's plan in a very literal sense. And whenever anyone has a problem, the first step is always pray. Always. That's the first step. We take human-sized steps. God takes God-sized steps. He'll get there before us. Now, this is predicated on our understanding, and there's plenty of evidence for it, both scientific and spiritual, that God's daily involved in our lives. That it's His divine grace that allows us to continue. Now, again, for those who might be new to this concept, grace is unearned forgiveness, unearned advantage, so to speak. All we need to do is ask. We can't bargain with God. We can't do something and say, look, I've done this. I've given this so much money to the church. I've volunteered all, you have to now pay me back by giving me grace. It doesn't work that way. It's unearned. It is by definition unearned. It's like going to your dad and saying, "Dad, give me $5 so I can buy you a gift for Father's Day." Now, the father is no better off for the transaction, but enjoys the fact that the son is learning, or the child is learning, the imperative of giving, of sharing, of thinking of someone outside yourself. Same with us. We must understand that what DJT is doing with this prayer day isn't just something for the masses to make him feel like, oh, well, he's on our side religiously. This is a very deliberate and serious attempt to collectively come together and say to the Almighty, we're imperfect. We ask your help. We need your help to survive this and to advance into whatever the future holds for us. And if the planet does that, and you can check this out in terms of the energetic effect in a spiritual sense when people come together to pray. It's not like if two people pray, you get double the power. No, it works differently. If 100 people play and then 200, you don't get 200 times. It's exponential. It's not arithmetic. It's exponential. And so bringing everyone together in a real practical sense, this is key to the coming days, weeks, months, and years of the planet. So participate and understand this first step is the most critical. The rest matter, but this is the most critical.
Well, thank you very much, and so well said. Let's put up image number 3 to my producer on a 3-panel. The 5 pillars of real leadership. Greatness awaits you, Ricardo Bosi. You can pick up a copy of this book, preferably at www.wilkinsonpublishing.com.au. That's WILIKONSON publishing.com.au. It's also available on Amazon.com. I encourage our viewers to go to my website, jmcbroadcasting.com. Click on the navigation bar at the upper left where it says contributors, and you will find at the very top the list of contributors to my network, Ricardo Bosi, a biography of Ricardo, a link into all of his work and his world, and pick up a copy of Greatness Awaits You in its 5th publication, as I understand. So thank you very much, Ricardo Bosi, for your time, expertise, and sharing with us the content you provided in this broadcast. Join Ricardo every month on the Global Defense War Military Panel. We're in our 2nd year. Coming up, I don't have the date, the last days of April. It'll be recorded and published. 5 military and intelligence experts to weigh in on everything that's going to transpire between now and the end of the month. So you'll want to tune into Global Defense War Military Panel, where Ricardo Bosi joins us each and every month on that. Any final words, Ricardo, before I sign us off?
No, John, other than thank you so much again. Thank you for the extraordinary generosity that you show us every fortnight. And we certainly hope this continues for a long time to come and that people continue to derive some benefit from it. Thank you very much to you and your team.
Thank you, sir. It means a lot to me, and you're welcome. And you know what? The followers that follow our broadcast here, Bosi Briefs, every other Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, you know what they want? They want more of it. I wish we could provide more. I'd love to be weekly with Ricardo, and if not, 30 minutes daily, but time does not allow. But things can change later, and we'll see. But thank you for your time, Ricardo. You're in demand everywhere, and I realize that. And, you know, on behalf of the American people, we would love to see you make Australia great again, if not for once. And everyone in that country should be supporting you. I'm going to talk with you one point off air about a lot of the Australians I meet here in Thailand. I always mention your name. I share your content with them, and I will share with you at another time on air and off air of what I'm running into, the sentiments of Australians that frequent Thailand. But anyway, God bless you, sir. God protect you and your beautiful family. Thank you very much for being here. I'll be right back after this announcement.
Join JMC Broadcasting's monthly Global Defense War Military Panel. JMC hosts an esteemed panel of military experts, including Ricardo Bosi, Tom Lennox, Chuck Sellers, Michael Jaco, Derek Johnson, Brad Wozni, and other military guests. Join us each month, where this panel of esteemed guests analyze the current events across a broad spectrum of topics, addressing the questions and concerns that you have. Subscribe for free by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. John looks forward to seeing you at the next episode of the Global Defense War Military Panel broadcast, right here on jmcbroadcasting.com.
All right, join us. We'll be out of here in about 60 seconds, folks. But important announcement, all new Patriot Q&A live Thursday, April 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Come join us. Captain Rob Cunningham, who was on last month's Global Defense War panel, will be there for 1 solid hour simply to answer your questions. Visit jmcbroadcasting.com, click on Premium Portal, and learn how to access that. For those that are unable or not interested in joining that, we have a free subscription. 99% of everything I produce is, of course, free to the public. Join us. Free subscription. You get our weekly newsletter, me unplugged, short unplugged announcements each week, and many other perks and benefits. So anyway, please join us April 30th, Captain Rob Cunningham. And I want to thank, once again, retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi of Australia for his keen insights and brilliant analysis, helping us all to make sense of the madness as we're approaching some final critical battles. It gets dark before it gets light. We got some dangers ahead. Pray, plan, and prepare. Victory is ours. Stay safe, everyone, and may God be with you.